Welcome back, my loves. We are diving into such an exquisite topic today. Okay, let's get started. As the Empress embodiment, we are not concerned with manifestation hacks, but we are focused on superior creation, which means we have let go of the illusion of control over anything, and yet we're devoted to reside in a higher vibrational state, which allows for a more speedier actualization and an actually consistent outcome. So, for that, let's establish that manifestation doesn't work. And what I mean by that, it's not reliable, it's not consistent. Because let's say you want to open your car. You don't have to wonder, is the car door going to work? Is it going to open? I mean, unless it's locked, but you can unlock it, which means the door is working, right? You don't have to worry about it. You open the car door, it's opening, it's working. Simple. I mean, I guess we got this example. So, in order for something to work, that means that out of 100, at least 99 times it's functioning properly. And that's just not the case with manifestation. Whether we sit with the desire, whether we write it out into our journal, whether we visualize it, it's still quite random, right? We don't really have control over it. And if something works like 10 times out of 100 and we don't know when it's going to work, that means it's not working. So let's establish that. Manifestation, in that sense, is an illusion because we don't have control over that process. Now, we're moving into superior creation. And whether that's conscious or unconscious, we all crave that superiority over the creation process. And if there's anything in this lifetime to master, that is it. And so the reason why manifestation doesn't work is because Earth is governed by laws. And according to the fourth way, which is a very, very interesting system to dive into, it's governed by 48 laws. That's what people mean when they say Earth is a dense place. It's governed by more laws than other planetary bodies. And the only place that is denser than Earth, at least according to that system, is the moon, which is governed by 96 laws. Now, again, take that all with a grain of salt. If you're interested, dive into the fourth way. It's a mystery school teaching and it's a lot to chew on and to sit with. But for my spiritual nerds out there and those that are really, you just get off on spiritual wisdom, that might be something for you. So, when we speak about Earth as a dense place, it means that when we're calling something into the physical, there is a process, right? This is not just a random state of affairs. We are actually calling something that already exists. And yes, everything is already here, but it's also not. Because when we say everything we desire already exists, it exists on a different dimension. And if we don't know how to bridge this gap, that sentence is useless. Because yes, it already does exist, but it's not here. It exists in a different dimension. And if we don't know the process of getting it into this dimension, it's pointless. So there is an actualization process. And if we look at it like the earth is governed by 48 laws, that means when we're calling something into being, we have to basically ask 48 people to approve, or we need 48 stamps of approval. And all we can do is plant the seed and file the claim. We don't have control over that process, at least at this point. So, what we do is we hold the desire, we visualize, we get really clear on what is it that I desire. It's in our heart, we can feel it. That's the moment we file the claim. But now it has to be approved by these 48 imaginary people. And the approval process goes something like this. Well, is this breaking that law? No. Okay, let's approve. Has she broken that pattern yet? No. Okay, let's wait here. Has she met that person? Is this in accordance to the laws that she abides by? Because not only are you governed by earth laws, you also create your own laws. And if you haven't watched the video, I will link it down below. You are governed by energetic laws. Some of them are laws that you consciously created. For example, miracles are an integral part of my existence. That's a law that maybe you have consciously created. But you also have belief systems, aka energetic laws, that are programming and that are just subconsciously running in your field. So now this existence is governed by the 48 laws of Earth plus your laws. And now it gets really interesting because depending on where you're at in your evolution, if you reside very much so in your personality, you are governed by more laws. If you reside in a state of I am presence and supreme awareness, you can surpass Earth's laws and be governed by less laws. So now you're vibrating at the level of a different planetary body. And now you're governed by laws of a different planetary body. This is not a hack. This is not something that we just by accident step into. This is deep devotion and awareness. And so that state is what some people look at as miraculous healer, the guru, the master. And if you've ever found yourself in the presence of a true master, which is someone who has surpassed Earth's laws, you will feel something is happening. This is Shaktipat, right? When you meet the guru in India, and this can happen wherever, this can happen in the Brazilian jungle or wherever. If you meet that master that has surpassed Earth's laws, there is an immediate transmission, what again in yogic traditions we call Shaktipat. You can literally feel miracles happen in the presence of this person, right? Their vibration is so high that they impact your field. And now what looks like miracles to you is essentially just logic. Their actualization process is governed by less laws. So they don't need 48 stamps of approval to create something or to call something into being, but they maybe just need 41 stamps or maybe 24. And that will look like miracles to you. So let's say they're not governed by the law of accident. That means everything is fate. Everything happens for a reason, and there are no random occurrences. So, therefore, nothing bad or no accidents could happen to them because they've surpassed that law. To become superior creators and to embody a certain mastery, we have to understand the process behind it and the system behind it. And if we look at everything like mysterious magic, we can't get to the space or place of mastery. When we see that there's a process and that there are laws, and we learn how to live above these laws, we can move into a state of mastery. The speed in which our actualizations occur is dependent on life force cultivation and absolute awareness, omnipresence, knowing what is happening on all dimensions, subconsciously and consciously, and bringing more I am presence into your current awareness. So let's move into life force cultivation and what that entails. A lot of people can't differentiate between an intuition or a random thought or co-creation with divine will or lower desire. So even if we're all born with a soul, our access to it and us actually living as a soul is something we have to cultivate. And in order to actualize anything, we require a lot of life force. So now, if most of your life force just goes into surviving and there is a lot of life force leakage happening, it's almost impossible to bring anything from the realm of the unseen into the physical realm. So you need to become superior in your life force cultivation. So there are certain practices which in my containers we go into that, because as much as knowledge is beautiful, we need embodiment, we need practices, we need actual experiences with it, and that takes devotion and time. There are certain practices in which we can learn how to contain our life force, like the Taoist sexual alchemy teaches how to generate in your ovarian palace and then move your sexual energy, transform it into life force, and fuel your organs and your brain with that. And then, if you have an overflow of life force, that's the magnetism that is used to actualize things, to amplify the speed of creation. For that, it requires a healthy physical body. So that's why I start with the basic. There's always my purity nutrition guide available because we need a clean vessel. If we eat gluten, wheat, a shit ton of cheese, and maybe have addictions, or if we don't take care of our body, there's very little percentage for us left over to actualize anything. Because again, it all goes into the basic needs of our organs and our brain. So if that isn't functioning right, you're not going to be a superior creator. So we first take care of this physical vessel so we can even move into the energetic realm. And so through this life force cultivation, we are cultivating our spirit body, which is something that we take with us and something that stays with us. So what we cultivate in this life is not just lost, it's eternal. And actually, Alexander is diving really, really deep into this. So I'll link it down below if you're interested in the actual part of the cultivation of that. But again, only if it resonates. This is for different states in our life. But if you desire that, you can absolutely cultivate it in this lifetime. We all can. And I believe that we all can become superior creators in this lifetime. So now we have to detect life force leakage, because yes, it's beautiful to know how to cultivate that, but also be aware what is causing leakage in our life force. One of the greatest life force leakages is random imagination. And the word imagination doesn't really cut it. Like, English isn't sufficient for that. So I'm going to use Sanskrit terms. Vikalpa is defined as random imagination or a random fantasy. And picture it as this: there are certain frequencies passing through our field. They are then translated into thought forms. This is Vikalpa. It's random imagination. Now, it can be quite hard to detach ourselves from that and not identify with this random imagination, because it comes in a personalized voice and a personalized form. So it's not just passing through our field and we're like, oh, this is a frequency of fear entering our system right now. I can clearly define that. No, it enters our field and it comes in a personalized voice. So let's say that fear will come with something that is personalized to us. So it will enter as a thought like, oh my God, my grandmother is going to die and I never get to see her again because she lives in Germany. So now I can identify that as a thought form when I become masterful, but oftentimes we start to identify with that. And this is where the leakage happens, because now something that was just meant to pass our field, we entertain it and we bring it into our reality. So now this frequency turns into reality. I now bring it into my life. Or, for example, a fear of betrayal. And now all of a sudden, I look at my partner, at my man, who is nothing but beautiful and safe. And this past fear, or this fear that isn't even mine, is now turned into reality. Because based on this fear, I might treat him differently. Now I look at him, I question his actions, and I bring in this fear into my reality. This is when life force leakage happens. Now, Vikalpa, the random imagination, is a part of human existence. And I don't believe, at this point at least, that we have to transcend it to a point where we don't feel it. We're part of this collective. So until we all transmute these fears and they no longer exist on this earthly plane, we will feel them because we're still human. But when we learn how to navigate that, it's not a problem, not an issue at all, because we now get to use that as a shamanic tool. That's how I like to use it. So rather than entertaining them, I use it as research and development. And we also don't have to fear it, because there's this whole thing of like, oh, if you entertain a negative thought or a negative emotion for longer than 17 seconds, it will impact your day. And we don't combat fear with fear. Like, we don't have to push it away and now think something really positive, right? This feels, I don't know, psychotic to me, or it doesn't feel natural to me. So when a negative thought form enters and we're entertaining it, let's use this as a shamanic opportunity to learn more. Because what I like to do is walk that voice home. Whose voice is that? Where is it coming from? Where did this originate? Right? That's just me. I have the investigator part in my human design. I just love to go really, really deep, and I love to understand things. If you just allow it to bypass, that's beautiful too. But sometimes certain frequencies are just too loud for us to simply bypass. And also, I want you to realize, as you are bringing in elevated practices, right? If you start to purge your body, purify your body, bring in more higher frequencies into your field through maybe sexual alchemy and cultivation, you will go through a purging. And that means these thought forms will come up. Let's say you're currently resonating on 400 hertz, and that's just a random example. But your vessel, your whole being is resonating on 400 hertz. And now you're introducing a higher vibration. These lower thought forms will be purged. And as they're purged, they will come to the surface. Now, we're going into the frequency fence. And again, if you haven't watched the video, I'll link it down below because that's essential too. Our frequency fence is 400 hertz at that point. And now we're looking to expand that frequency fence and bring it up to 500 hertz. Our subconscious feels very safe in this 400 hertz experience, even if it's shitty, but we're like, oh, I'm used to this. I feel safe in this suffering. I know what to do with suffering. Don't you freaking dare introduce higher octaves of being, because we don't know how to be safe in 500 hertz. And that is when Vikalpa gets you, okay? This moment where you're expanding your frequency fence, this might be graceful if you've mastered your tools, but there will be a moment where these densities will surface. And this is oftentimes where we go back and we contract again, right? And this can show up in all of these different ways. It's when you're deciding to break that habit or break that addiction, and you're like, I'm doing so freaking great. I'm doing so freaking great. I'm expanding. I'm expanding. And then this one thing happens and it wants to bring you back to that known frequency, not because there's anything malevolent, but because this is where your subconscious feels safe. So we have to do a lot of internal and eternal growth work to be able to consistently expand. Right? So this is when we can use these thought forms, vikalpa, and turn them into a shamanic exploration. This is also where awareness comes in. That's the second part of our superior creation and how to become a superior creator. Awareness. Because like we said, these thought forms come with personalized voices. And as we explore, well, what is this voice? And whose voice is it? Where did this originate? So here the question is, who are we? Who are we? Because we're not that voice. Clearly, that's not us. That's not our voice. And we're not the student, not the teacher. We're not the master, but we're also not the slave. So we are I am presence. But what does that mean? We are the eternal essence. But what does that mean? And as we're calling in more of our soul, calling in more of our life force, and as we're cultivating that, we become more of the I am presence embodied. So now that means there is a clear stream of frequency, a clear stream of consciousness. Again, that doesn't mean that we don't hear vikalpa, these imaginary thought forms, and this random imagination. We still hear it, but we're so clear and so anchored in the frequency of our essence and the I am presence that they don't derail us. These voices do not derail us from our purpose, our soul mission, because we're very clear on that. And one way to cultivate that is through bhavana. Again, another Sanskrit word, and excuse me if I'm butchering it. I only read it, I haven't heard it, so I have to actually re-listen to it and how to pronounce it. But bhavana is yogic contemplation. And we use that in the quantum journeys. And I also use that in QHHT. There is a reconnection to our essence, and it's a very immersive experience because bhavana, yogic contemplation, is visualization connected to feelings and an immersive experience. And so this is when we call in more of our I am presence and we become familiar with our soul frequency. How does my essence feel? How does my essence sound? Visualization, meaning bhavana, leads to actualization, while random imagination or vikalpa can lead to life force leakage. I've sat in sessions and people are not able to access the true stream of consciousness, the true frequency of their essence. They are not able to surpass that voice of doubt. They still identify with that doubting voice, and they don't believe that there is something higher, or they think it's so hard to access. We all have a soul, but it's quite pointless if we don't cultivate that frequency. Because a lot of us still identify with 1 out of 1,000 voices, and none of it is your essence. This is a process. This is not just something that miraculously happens. This takes cultivation and devotion. So when we are in tune with that resonance of our essence, we are clear in our purpose. And these voices don't derail us as much anymore, right? Sometimes a voice might come in, but we're able to remain in purpose. We're able to remain in the I am presence. The greatest awareness for us to have is that we're not the thousand voices, but we are the I am eternal presence. We are the essence of life itself. So, therefore, there's also no need for fear. Let's explore these voices. Let's get to know them. What do they have to say? Where do they come from? And where are they going? Who are these voices? And you will uncover a lot of miracles. And as you sit with them, as you maybe even give them a name, as you hear their belief system, as you get more acquainted with them, they have less and less and less power over you. Because as long as something is unconscious, it has quite the generative power. But if we bring it into the known, if we hear these voices out, if we can identify maybe 30 different voices, we're like, oh, that's who you are. Oh, that's what you're basing this off of. Well, that's not logical, right? We make it conscious, and all of a sudden it has no longer power over us. And so these are the two factors of superior creation: awareness, which is omnipresence, awareness of the I am presence, and awareness of the thousand different voices in your field, and immense life force cultivation. If that is new to you, I have a little bit of homework for you. Sit in meditation, even just for 10 minutes, meaning close your eyes and sit down. Don't visualize anything particular, just sit and see what comes up, and write down all of the different sentences, all of the different thought forms, and give them names. This is an exploration. This is how you can start. If you want to dive deeper into life force cultivation and you want more tools on how to regain more awareness and live deeper in your I am presence, this is what my containers are for. This is why we're currently in the rebirth container. And that's also why this is a 9-month program. This takes devotion, and it takes time, and it takes embodiment. This is not just like accumulation of knowledge. We need understanding for that. Now, if you're excited to get this process going and start the foundations of superior creation, I have a beautiful, beautiful 1-month container, which is basically a momentum towards actualization. So every single day, we're going into practices, we're going into teachings, we're going into journaling, and there are a lot of bhavana practices, because bhavana, the yogic contemplation, the focused visualization, brings us closer to actualization. So these 30 days are filled with yogic contemplation, with bhavana, which propels the speed of actualization. So if you're excited for this because the new year is starting and you want to gain some momentum and you want to get really, really clear on what it is that you're calling into being, I have this wonderful container. We're all going to start together on the 1st of January. It's really a jumpstart into creation. So every single day, there is a little practice journal. The longest is like 30 minutes because I want it to be sustainable. But this could be your beautiful morning ritual for all of January. And the link is down below. And of course, there is always a little special going on. I'm excited for our next video, and I'm really excited for our January Jumpstart, because the fact that we're all doing this together and we're all starting on January 1st, there is a group momentum that is helping to actualize even faster. I love you, and I see you next week.